So hello, everyone. We're going to start recording. Yeah, I think Kelsey just got us going. Thank you, Kelsey. So hello, everyone. I know people are going to be popping in over the next few minutes to join. This session is also going to be recorded, so anybody who is not able to join live can watch it later. But I wanted to just say welcome to the last peer networking event of 2023 hosted by the Cannabis Control Board. Appropriately, this is going to be covering our latest updates to our testing guidance that are based on the rule amendments that went into effect in October. So I think this is a great subject matter for our very last networking event of 2023. Carrie is here, our Director of Compliance, to walk us through the guidance documents that are new and posted to the website. And there's going to be an opportunity at the end for a Q&A period. And we've got several of the field agents on the line too to sort of support the Q&A. But I'm not gonna talk for long. I just wanted to say welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. I did have one piece of sort of bittersweet news that I wanted to share before we got started. And that is that today is Carrie's last day with the Cannabis Control Board. I wanted to note that Carrie has been a devoted public servant for over 30 years to the state of Vermont, and has decided to retire this year to focus on some of his other passions besides cannabis. And so I just wanted to note that I am personally incredibly grateful for Carrie's service to the state of Vermont, and to the board in particular for getting the regulated industry off the ground. He's really been an integral part of establishing Vermont's culture of compliance. And as many of us know, Vermont's regulatory approach is pretty different from that of other regulated states. And it's just one of the many ways that our state cannabis industry stands apart from the rest of the country. And I know that we are all proud of that. And I want to thank Carrie for your time and your expertise and your real devotion to getting it right in Vermont. Really grateful to have had you on the team. We are going to begin recruitment for the compliance director position early in the new year. In the meantime, our very own Andy Shepperfills is going to step in as the interim director of compliance until we have a permanent director in place. He serves as the field agent for his territory that he serves as the field agent for. He's only going to keep a few of the licensees that are in his territory, and the majority of his licensees are going to be shifted to other field agents. So if Andy is your field agent, you might expect to be reached out to by another one of the field agents to just let you know that they are going to be covering you temporarily. So that is all that I have to say. I'm going to turn it over to Carrie now. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Bryn, and thanks everybody for joining us. And it really is bittersweet. This has been an adventure. It's been incredible watching an agency be built from nothing. The team here is incredible. And with that said, we'll jump right in. I've got about 20 slides. They basically cover the guidance that came out, as well as a one pager that Nellie was one of her last big things for the board, was getting this one pager, getting all of the sort of requirements on one page, and she did a great job. But this is posted now, and it really is one stop, one look, one glance for what you need to do for the different types of samples that you'll be sending to the lab. So basically, the laboratory testing action limits and parameters guidance, it has been updated in December. It's got some new things. Water activity, we moved away from moisture. We now require water activity. I think it's a more accurate representation of stability of the product. But anyways, the Vermont Cannabis Control Board maintains parameters and action limits for testing cannabis that affect both the medical and adult use market. The adult use market uses the 2 licensed labs that we have. We are down to 2. We had a third that just did potency, but we're down to 2 labs now. The medical market, if you will, uses internal labs and double checks with the licensed laboratories. Limits are set through the board's guidance pursuant to rule, and guidance will not be altered without at least 90 days notice. And some of this guidance new posted in December, you'll have 90 days to sort of come into compliance. It's guidance now, but okay. Smokable flower. This is basically a breakdown with a little narrative of the 1-pager. So smokable flower, you need potency, pathogens, pesticides, water activity, and soil heavy metals every 3 years. This is sort of an ag test. If you're testing your soil, just make sure you're doing a heavy metals test every 3 years.
Hey, Carrie, we can't see your screen. We just see a document that says labtesting.pptm. We can't see your screen or the slides.
I can see the screen.
I see the slide.
You can? Okay,
Mhm.
it's just me then. Never mind. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
You're good. I'm hoping the other muted folks. Okay, very good. That was all right. And with that, this is sort of a change from last year about the pesticide analysis. We were having harvest lot samples. So for pesticide analysis, the harvest lot samples that are multiple cultivars should have the cultivars submitted individually and may be commingled by the laboratory for up to 5 cultivars per harvest lot. Individual cultivar analysis will be performed for potency and pathogens. So when you're submitting a harvest lot for analysis, you can have that pesticide analysis done on the harvest lot level of up to 5 cultivars, as long as the laboratory does the commingling. And that's a little bit different than what we were having folks submit last year. For fresh frozen or biomass, we're requiring a pesticide and pathogens test. The potency requirement for fresh frozen has been eliminated, although an individual buyer could probably request that or could request that in order to come up with a fair price, but we're not requiring the potency for fresh frozen, largely because it was confusing at best to look at those results on a dry weight basis. Solvent extracted concentrates, we would be looking for the potency, heavy metals, pesticides, and residual solvent. And when that product is moving along the track, if it's going into a gummy or going into something else, the underlying COAs should move with that concentrate for inventory tracking. We do know that a lot of the flour will have been tested for pesticides, but the extraction methods used do concentrate those pesticides, and we want to maintain that test just for public safety. Mechanically extracted concentrates. This is your dry sift or bubble hash. Primarily. So the mechanically extracted concentrates, we're looking for potency and pathogens. And when you see the slide for water activity and where water activity is required, it says the CCB may require other products be tested for water activity. So we're considering the water activity test for bubble hash. We didn't want to stick it on with all mechanically extracted concentrates, and then break mechanically extracted concentrates into wet and dry. So mechanically extracted is just one category, but if you are using water as your a solvent assist or an extraction assist, we would ask that you do water activity on your bubble hash. Edible products, potency of the final product, as well as intra-batch consistency testing. And the testing schedule is based on your manufacturing tier size. And we'll get to that in a second. And topical products, where we just like to see a potency analysis of your topical product. And here's the schedule. Here's your 90-day notice. This was posted in in December, and a full 90-day to get this interbatch consistency testing brings us to February. So March 1st, your field agents will be looking for those records. But tier 3s provide inventory of all the products organized by product group. The manufacturers will be sort of working with their field agents to figure the schedule out. Develop a schedule. So batch consistency testing is completed at least once, one product from each group per month. For the tier 3s, the tier 2s are more of on a 3-month schedule, and the tier 1s are make sure that every product is tested at least annually. And here, water activity is, we moved away from moisture. Water activity was always in the rule. You could do water activity or a moisture analysis, but we've moved away from moisture because it was less indicative of whether or not a product was going to be shelf stable. So our action level for water activity is 0.65. And then again, the board may request water activity analysis of other cannabis product to help determine if additional product assessment for microbiological hazards is needed. And again, based on what's being manufactured, manufacturers may need to work with a process authority to complete additional testing and product evaluation to determine a specific water activity requirement for a particular product. And then to determine whether or not your product needs a process authority review, just reach out to your compliance agent and we'll let you know those details. Potency. All cannabis and cannabis products must undergo a potency test before they can be registered for retail sale. Flower for retail sale may not exceed 30% THC, and solid concentrates offered for retail sale may not exceed 60%. Though there's a built-in sort of analytical variation with those. As long as the product label says 60, you have a plus or minus 10%. And the same with the 30. Pathogen testing. All flower must be tested for pathogens. So the human pathogens are Salmonella, E. coli, and also Aspergillus. Mechanically extracted concentrates must also undergo pathogen testing. Microbiological contaminants must not be detected. So basically the action level for any of the microbials is 0. This is also new. There's a remediation pathway for Aspergillus. If the initial Aspergillus test positive, you can how am I going to say this? So you can have that positive confirmed with the laboratory, and a confirmation of Aspergillus may include 2 additional test samples. So if you get a positive, you can submit another sample to the lab for confirmation of Aspergillus. And I saw Callie on here, and if I get this wrong, I'm going to have her correct me. But because the sometimes the signal is so low that they need another sample to confirm. So a confirmed Aspergillus positive is 2 positives, the initial sample, and then one of the confirmation samples also testing positives will be a positive for Aspergillus. And if that if we get a confirmed positive for Aspergillus, then there is a remediation pathway that can be taken. That product may be remediated as described below, or be offered for solvent extraction for edible topical products. If the product is remediated, then the remediated product needs to be tested for aflatoxins, B1, B2, G1, and G2, and also ochratoxin. Sometimes in the remediation process, when you're torturing the poor Aspergillus, it will produce these toxins. So, and the sample will test negative for Aspergillus after it's been remediated. So we're asking you to look for the presence of the aflatoxins afterwards. If the product is remediated, it must be retested before it's offered for sale. The post-remediation testing can use a PCR test that eliminates free DNA from the sample. Once a product tests positive for Aspergillus, it needs to be labeled as positive for Aspergillus when it moves either to the laboratory or to an extractor or to the remediator. It needs to be labeled so folks handling that product are aware and can take those extra precautions necessary to protect themselves. Once it's been remediated and it comes back with a negative test, it no longer needs to be labeled as Aspergillus positive. That was a mouthful. I'm gonna take a quick sip. The heavy metals parameters and action levels for flour are here. The action limits for concentrates are listed here, and these are the soil levels that we did get from the Veg and Berry fact sheet, and additional levels here from New York State ag lab for chromium, copper, nickel, and zinc. So if you submit a soil sample to through either UVM or Cornell, which are the sort of 2 big operators in Vermont. I know Maine also provides a service, but it's the same lab that UVM uses. You can tick off the box on your soil test for heavy metals once every 3 years and compare those to these levels. Alternatively, you can also screen your flour just so you're aware. The action levels for residual solvents are here. These are any of the things that can be used in processing cannabis, like isopropyl alcohol. I want to make sure that's gone. Propane, and also things that we don't want to see. So butane and hexane are both statutorily prohibited, so you don't want to see either of those as a residual solvent in your extract. And ethanol, the little star here signifies that that's the limit for ethanol unless you're selling a tincture. Or ethanol is the carrier for your product. pesticides parameters are here. I just wanted to say our list looks short compared to other states, but when this does go through the instrument at either of the labs, if there is a residual pesticide, it's likely that it will show up in the extraction and in the analysis. Terpene testing requirements. So terpenes for a smokable cannabis product may not exceed 10% by weight. And this is largely for the products where folks are extracting terpenes or reintroducing terpenes that they took off, or purchasing terpenes from companies and then adding to the isolate or distillate that they produce. And we don't want to see those numbers over 10%. All terpenes added to cannabis product must be naturally occurring in the cannabis plant. This may include terpenes that occur naturally in the cannabis plant but are derived from non-cannabis botanicals. So the other, the lilacs and the myrcene and other terpenes that you can buy are allowed in our market. You just have to make sure you're putting on the label that you are adding terpenes to your product. Addition of terpenes may not have so any addition of terpenes may not have the result of creating a product with a characterizing flavor not naturally occurring in cannabis. So you can't make a watermelon or cotton candy flavored vape cart, but if you do recreate a profile for one of our more popular strains, that's an okay thing to do. Any concentrated terpenes added to a cannabis product shall be disclosed on the label. A terpene test is required for the following products offered for retail sale: concentrates intended for inhalation or vaporization that have been decarbed; any product in which terpenes have been removed and reintroduced. So your CO2 extract that you're pulling off a terpene run first, but then adding it back to your vapes, those also need to be tested for terpenes. Any product with added terpenes, any product that indicates terpene content on the label. A final product offered for retail sale with a terpene content that exceeds 10% by weight of the total product may be submitted to the board for product registration review. If the terpene profile of the underlying flower demonstrates that an excess of terpene content is not the result of additives, the high terpene product may be approved and the product may be registered. So basically what we're seeing is some folks' flower come in with total terpenes in the 5% range. If you're pressing that into a rosin, you may see terpenes that exceed 10%. And you can follow these directions, submit that through product registration, and submit a rules waiver request, and that'll be reviewed by the CCB, and you'll be notified through product registration whether your rule waiver request has been granted. So we do have room in rule comment. Folks asked for a pathway for those products, and this is the pathway that was created for those. Reporting requirements. This is also new. The labs are reporting exceedances directly to the CCB. In rule, though, licensees must make a prompt report to the board upon discovery of adulterated cannabis. So if you get a positive pesticide result or some other result, you should notify the board. The labs are notifying the board of actionable test results. And just making folks aware of that. And last screen, this is all of that information wrapped up and neatly packaged on one page that is you could totally print and hang up on the wall. And that's all I have to say. See if we wanted to open that up for questions. How'd I do, Callie?
I was just gonna chime in one thing on pathogens, but you did pretty good. I just wanted to add, so part of the reason that we'd like to see the 3 data points, at least with the customer base that we're working with, is we're finding that a lot of people are accidentally contaminating their original pathogen sample. So what that looks like is it coming to the lab, the sample not being handled with gloves, or the container that it was put in not being wiped out with isopropyl alcohol. Or also sometimes we see that lab samples, like they may have been put in an office outside of a dry room or something of that nature. And that's actually where these samples are getting contaminated with aspergillus. So we've been working with our customers, just kind of educating them on handling the pathogen sample. We do see that once the samples are handled correctly, that this flour is actually clean. So just wanted to add that, just make sure when you are, handling the pathogen samples, just remember, clean containers, wear gloves, be as, sterile as you can so that you don't accidentally contaminate your flour sample that's coming to the lab.
Thanks, Kelly. I knew you'd help me out there.
No problem.
Would you like me to call people out, Carrie?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we have Talia.
Hey, yeah, this is actually Sam. We're both listening in from Tau Labs. I'm just curious what kind of prompted this revamp or increased rigor around testing. It seems like a huge shift from what's been working to date, and I think as the folks from Onward just called out, right? Suddenly this spike in asparaginus, where growing methods, cultivation methods may not have changed in any way, but suddenly we're finding ourselves with increased cost of testing, sensitivity around particular pathogens that somehow wasn't there previously. Just curious what brought us to this place of increased rigor around all this.
Well, the sort of reason the legislature allowed legal retail adult use cannabis in Vermont was one of the selling points was that a tested clean product is better and more protective of public health. And we went through a year of using the standards that were originally developed, and this is just a modification of those original sort of standards. I think we improved based on what we were seeing in the market, the testing protocols and procedures. I'm not sure exactly. Which requirement? Because a lot did change. We changed a little bit in every category. Which one are you specifically thinking about? The aspergillus testing?
Yeah, it just seems like a substance that's ever present everywhere, and the call out around improper handling of samples before it gets there to the lab itself. Like, for example, we've grown nothing but a product that has passed with flying colors, and then suddenly we send stuff out, and the sample is with the lab for 3+ weeks before it even gets tested. Then it gets tested, everything fails. We have thousands of dollars in sunk COA costs that are spurned by that, and we have no idea at what point that sample could have been contaminated within the 3 weeks that it wasn't with our possession. So it suddenly puts, I believe, a tremendous amount of power in the hands of the lab, and cultivators are kind of left in this place wondering where, at what point in the chain of custody did this sample potentially get contaminated. Obviously, if it was contaminated within our facility, we need to go through things and remediate from that perspective, but there's equal, if not greater, chance that in the 3 weeks that it was outside of our possession, that it could have been contaminated. And so that sort of, I think, is a catalyst for spending tremendous money on testing, retesting, when we're all kind of hoping that the stuff is being properly handled when it leaves our possession. So it's just, it puts cultivators, I think, in a really tough spot. So more of a comment, I guess, than a question, but also
Yeah.
curious if there had been an incident of somebody getting, I know that there's immune compromised folks can be susceptible to aspergillus, especially. I wonder if there was an incident or something that kind of pushed us to this place with some of this testing.
There's no incident. No, there was no incident. There was no incident, and your comments are heard. Your comments are heard, and as the market matures and develops, I think you'll see testing requirements and standards evolve over time. And like I said, we heard your comments. Noted. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it, Gary. Thanks.
All right. That might be all, folks. Unless anybody wants to has any other questions. I know it's a week between two holidays. Usually we get more folks on the line, but I understand that nobody knows what day it is. Sometimes the week between the holidays.
I don't think
Any
we have
of
any
the-
more questions.
No, any of the field agents want to add anything? No. All right. Well, thank you all very much, and have a happy new year.